No, it's funny too, because obviously most of us work or have school or something else, so it's only a side project because we don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you actually have, I guess, time to develop, like work on creative stuff, you can take the effort to have like your own private stash, I guess.
I got a friend DJT, and he'd like give me a song, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I wrote this one 3 years ago, but it was only when I heard these lyrics from this person here that I'm like, hey, that would actually go really well and mesh together." So he's got 15,000 unfinished projects as well. But when something comes along that fits it nicely, he's like, "Oh, that'll go so well," and then from there it'll finish up.
One of the things that you argued earlier is that the release and distribution isn't part of the creative process. But it's sort of sounding, the more we talk, that it kind of is, because we're keeping in mind our final audience, we're keeping in mind how it's going to be used. Wouldn't that essentially...
Well, I'm saying the process of releasing it and distributing it is no longer... I mean, it's creative in the sense of what you're talking about, in terms of how do you organize it to create a multi-track project, like a bigger project.
Yeah.
But like getting those little individual pieces, I think, obviously before distribution. But I do say that keeping in mind that audience and getting feedback early on is super important. So I do think that the benefit of that, I don't know, I feel nervous about releasing. I would be very nervous about writing an entire thing in a vacuum without showing anybody and getting it totally finished and then showing it to the world. Like that. You got to really that could work for some people. Like, I don't know, maybe Ponyville or something works like that. But like, yeah. But most people like have like, even if they're studio musicians and stuff, like they have other players come in and you're getting feedback and you're working with people, like whether you're Quincy Jones or whoever, you're working with a whole, like that creative process is always getting feedback and input from multiple sources as you create it.
One of the things that I really love is that, because playing with other people, you hear things come out and how they play your music that you're like, oh, that's really good.
Well, I
need to do that.
Yeah, this is such an interesting point. So this is the other thing I would tell my friend who can't finish any songs. I'm like, why don't you bring in a session player, to play the guitar if you're struggling with the guitar part? Mm-hmm. And he's like, no one's going to be able to do it. And like, to create something and leave room for the input, like the actual creative input of other like artists you respect is an amazing thing. Like when you guys start working together, so sometimes that's why I like to start with just a piano sketch, and then I start bringing in orchestrators and session players and stuff, because I know I could do it, but I know there'll be surprises and interesting things that happen when I get the input of these other creative people that are going to elevate that project, rather than the stress of feeling like I have to do everything myself.
That's really interesting for me, because for the most part, I'm not an original. I'm not a singer-songwriter at heart. I do it occasionally, but for the most part, I'm essentially a cover artist, because I take other songs that I hear something in that is really interesting to me, and then I totally flip it on its head and do it in a completely different genre, in a completely different way.
Cool.
And just sort of do that.
Yeah.
But I think we got the 5-minute warning.
Yeah.
So I guess final thoughts?
Yeah.
Or advice to people who want to go through this process?
I think that should be the main emphasis here, is feedback. Do not be afraid to have something that's even half completed. Give it to someone and be like, take a listen to this, because I see that all the time with compilation albums. They're like, I spent 50 hours, 100 hours, whatever on this, and you listen to it like, no, that doesn't sound right. There's not enough sub bass, or the synth is too high and stuff. And just like, so you provide them feedback. It's like, oh, but I spent so many hours. And I'm like, well, did you get any feedback from anyone else? Mm-hmm. And they're like, no. But yeah, so if you can get feedback, like you said, even early on, it's absolutely valuable, and that should definitely be one of the take-home messages from this.
Just don't forget, right? Everybody who you see who looks like they're a single person doing it, they tend to have a team. Mm-hmm. And then just marketing doesn't like that. So don't get lost in the auteur.
Yeah.
So since we only have Daniel for another couple minutes, what would be your advice to people that are looking to get into this kind of thing or to improve themselves?
Yeah, I think maybe not get into this. Oh, when you say get into this kind of thing,
get into
songwriting or creativity in general. Like, I mean, take a look at what Lycan is saying. People tend to be more forgiving too when you show them something that's half finished because they know it's not totally finished. You know, so like, whereas you're more precious of something that you've really like spent a lot of time on. So that early feedback, I think, is critical. And I think just early on, allowing yourself to just play and let go of that left-hand brain, let go of the judgment, and just like create as much content as you possibly can. And that's where you'll build the love for the process. You know, like for me, I start with scales. So like I'll practice scales, and it's inevitable I'm bored. So then I start like playing around with the scale, and then that playing around with that scale now turns into like an improv. And this happens on guitar too, which turns into some kind of cool chords. And then I'm like in the zone and I'm stoked. And then I get to say a script and then I start working. But like I've allowed myself to enter into this creative space first. So I think that ability to try to find whatever your way is of removing your judgment and just allowing yourself to create stuff without thinking it has to be perfect and finished and amazing and impress everybody. You're just having fun. Then you'll fall in love with the process and you'll discover, you'll surprise yourself with what you can make.
Awesome. Daniel Ingram.
Thank you so much for coming out. Technically the panel itself has a couple more minutes. So we can do Q&A because we do have experience if anybody has any.
Oh, we do quick Q&A?
No.
Where am I going? I don't know.
They're shuttling you out somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's all right. Just take me. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Adios. Bye.
But I guess on the other hand, we just have this panel room for another 15 minutes.
Yeah, we
could
do.
do a sketch.
15 minutes.
Oh my God.
An improv sketch. No, I'm kidding. That's not. I don't want them to.
We need a situation and an article title from a newspaper. But yeah, no. In terms of like brony stuff, with how we get things out in the fandom and how we can connect with people, do we have any advice and stuff for that?
Oh yes, networking. There is nothing better than networking. So, and then it's not just networking with other musicians as well. If you can get in contact with an artist, so be like, hey, look, I'm looking for art for my song. They'll be like, sure. And then you can get that art. And then when you actually point that art to them, when they put it up on their DeviantArt or whatever, they can actually point your song back from their art. And so that's called networking. So not only has the art
cross promotion,
yes, as well.
You're saying musicians have money for art?
No, like make contact with people. I don't think I've ever paid anybody for art.
Aren't you just for famous?
Well, I wasn't always.
You can find artists that has a piece of art and actually approach them and say, hey, look, I've got a song that I'd like to use this art for. Do you mind if I use it on my song?
Or if you do Photoshop, you go to MLP Vector Archive on DeviantArt, and they have backgrounds, they have characters. You can, like, the album art for Fluttershy for me was exactly that. It was MLP Vector Archive on DeviantArt.
So as a director, I get to deal with all this kind of stuff, which is more about the release, the distribution, the networking, cross-promotion, everything like that. So yeah, that's where I come in and can be like, oh hey, you should chat to that person, or take a look at this person's work and provide some feedback from them, and you might actually learn a few things as well. So yeah, definitely that kind of thing is an amazing way to get better at the creative process.
I would like to just add to that. So if you're anything like the way my brain works, you hear the word networking and you instantly think that you need like a business card and have to talk to people in a certain way about certain things.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, you have to do that. Now, that's not actually true. Because if you just go and meet people with a desire to learn from them, and hopefully they have the same desire to learn from you, and that's how it starts. It's not like going up and specific like a networking event. I mean, this is kind of a networking event, right? You meet people. If you see somebody, walking to George Webb, or if you're at a panel and they're sitting next to a person and, they ask a question or anything. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of different situations, right? But it's difficult, believe me. I don't like doing it. I hate talking to people. But if you can just kind of ask a question, if you see it doesn't have to be drawn out. Like if you see somebody drawing, like if you're an artist, I'm just trying to find a good example because it's so hard, and this is why I've always had a hard time with it. But I'm just trying to speak to people who do, because I know
Oh yeah, no. I got a perfect example of it. Someone's like, oh yeah, I really like this person's music, and I'm like, well, why don't you go talk to them? They're over there. It's like, oh no, I don't want to bother them. It's like, yeah, it's fine, come with me. So
Kind of like how you get Danielle Ingram on your panel.
Yeah,
It's
basically.
like, well, how'd you do that? How did you do that? Well, I went up and talked to him.
Yeah, and I mean, not everybody's going to be nice, unfortunately. But most people are. Like, I'm excited to share like how I do things with people because it makes me feel like I'm cool.
Yeah, but I've actually had people go, oh, I like this person's music. And so I'm like, yeah, come meet them. And then they come and talk, and then later on it's like, oh, hey, yeah, I got chatting, I got their contact details, we sent a couple of messages back and forth. And
now we hang.
Yeah, so that's
I just had one of those moments, actually. So, interesting thing, I recently did my first furry con. And it was...
Say the F word.
Furries!
First, you're a furry man.
I'm a rainforest. Oh, no, you can't say that.
Oh.
So I did Denver back in August, and it totally converted me into being a furry. But I started like looking into the fandom afterwards, and there was this person that doesn't have an extraordinary amount of subscribers. I think it's a few thousand, like fairly low number in the thousands. And she does a lot of stuff on like both educating about the furry fandom and talking about transgender issues, which is very interesting to me because I went through that myself a few years ago and did that whole thing. And I really, really liked her content, and I was like, well, it would be really cool if we could like do some sort of collaboration or something like that. And I'm like, how do I get in contact? Twitter.
Yeah.
She has a Twitter. I send her a message on Twitter and say, hey, we both have similar audiences on our channels, and I feel like I might be able to help promote some of your stuff by like doing some sort of collab with you and promoting it to my audience, and we could do the same thing if you were interested in like a brony perspective on one of your videos. And she's like, yeah, no, that's fantastic. And so we immediately got in contact, and it just kind of rolls from there, and hopefully that should happen soon.
Yeah, and if you want to do like that's for cross promotion. There is a distinct difference between cross promotion and networking in terms of like approach, because you had something to offer.
Yeah, that's true. Person. Yeah, so I did dangle a carrot in that particular instance.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time it's, if somebody sends me a message and is like, hey, can I cover blah, blah, blah? Of course, I'll respond immediately. Or, hey, can I get the vocal tracks from this song so that I can use it in a mix?
Or,
sure.
Yeah, or like, oh, can I use this in a speed paint?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, just link back to my original and you're good. Like, I'd love to see it too, like just...
That's how I ended up on Brains for Good. They had their album, and they weren't getting any exposure. I'm like, hey, do you mind if I do a live release for your next album? They're like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, I got the radio show. What I can do is I'll take the songs that, when you're ready to release them, hype them up, and do a live release so that people can talk and react while it's going on. They're like, that sounds like a great idea. So yeah, that's how I got involved with Bronies for Good. Just literally went out and asked them.
I made friends with Rommel on Philadelphia radio. That's how I started working with Bronies for Good. That was definitely an example of networking. Was Philly radio back in the day.
Yeah. I'm so see. This is part of my problem. I have my brain's just not engineered to talk to people like that. Like, you're my friend. I'll talk to you all day, and I'll talk to people if they come to me. But I'm not gonna like, you know what I mean?
I think with Philly radio, I was literally listening to the radio station, and I'm like, your bumpers suck. Can I make you new bumpers?
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then they're like, yeah, can you? Like, who do you have contact with? I'm like, who do you want me to have contact with? The Living Tombstone? Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Yoav, can we get you to record, hey, this is The Living Tombstone, you're listening to Philadelphia radio? And he's like, sure. He sent it to me in an hour. I put some music behind it, stuck a ducker on it, and called it good.
Yeah.
Sent it into Philadelphia radio, and then did that for a whole bunch of different musicians, and, we... started doing a radio show, and I brought you into the radio show, and then you completely destroyed everything. I left the radio show, and you for a little while.
Yeah.
Get back.
It's a love-hate relationship.
It's
we like each other, but hate each other at the same time. It's very unique.
I hate liking you.
And I like hating you.
I'm over here.
That's me. Oh, I
Lincoln.
Go grow on some rocks, Lincoln. I was waiting all panel to make that joke.